Hello, and welcome to the podcast about Transformers comics, toys, and everything in between. I'm Onyx Prime with my two co-hosts here.
Hi, I'm Computron.
Hi, I'm Kilobyte.
Moving on with our comic discussion for today's episode takes us to IDW Primacy, the last part of this trilogy, and as always, spoiler warning. So if you haven't read it already, we highly recommend you go back and read it, and then come back and listen to the podcast. Now, onward. Both Computron and myself have read the series already, but this is Kilobyte's first time, and we are excited to hear his thoughts about the series. But before we dive into that, Computron, do you mind telling us some fun, interesting facts?
Yes, the Primacy issue was first released August 13th, 2014, and the last issue was November 19th. The writers, as usual, was Chris Metzen and Flint Dill, and the same artist as always, Livio Ramondelli. Some fun facts. It is stated that Hot Rod's friend Slinger never forgave him for destroying Nyan and its citizens. But in the issue in which this occurred, we see that Slinger's actually convinced Hot Rod to blow up the city and its inhabitants so that they would not be used as fuel for Zeta Prime. And another one is, in one scene, Dive Bomb has collapsed from exhaustion and is weak to the point where he can't stop himself from being cannibalized. In the next scene, he's completely fine with no explanation given. Flint Dill described this series as a sort of like Transformers, Lord of the Rings. Adding to it, it will be focused on most of the epic destructive battle of the Cybertronian Civil War. Other than that, I think that's about all I can find. So, Kilobot, do you mind giving us a nice short summary of these comics?
Will do. Transformers Primacy is the third and final part of the trilogy that began with Autocracy and Monstrosity. This four-part comic book series takes us to the final days of the war between the Decepticons and the Autobots, and a lot of factions come together to participate in this war. This information was taken from the wiki.
Nice. Well, shall we get to it?
We shall.
All right. So,
Jinx.
the first thing I want to point out about these comics, and a lot of these comics coming forward, is the small quips that get me. Like, there's this one scene where Ironhide and Optimus are climbing up a mountain, and Ironhide says something along the lines of being able to carry his own weight, like metaphorically, only to like slip and begin to fall off the mountain. And then Optimus replies, "You were saying." Like, it's the small things that get to me. I don't know. How do you guys feel?
It was kind of funny. Like, Ironhide's kind of like an egotistical kind of guy, right? I mean, nothing bad about him, but for him to like, you know, be all confident in himself to, do what he needs to do and what he's good at, and then without skipping a beat, completely, slips.
Hey, what's your thoughts, Kilo?
The whole interaction between him and Optimus, it's pretty funny and pretty good. Ironhide is such a proud bot of all the accomplishes he's done, either in the war or before. So, just traveling with Optimus and being like, I can do this. Don't worry about me, and suddenly tripping is pretty hilarious.
Right.
So on that beat, that same scene when they were climbing up the mountain, they see this, figure in the distance, and that figure happens to be Omega Supreme. And what he's doing there is he's waiting for Nova Prime to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time we get to see Omega Supreme, like in the comics, which is interesting because he's way off in this frozen wastelands, and he's just sitting there staring at space, waiting for Nova to come back. And, spoilers, I wasn't necessarily hoping or waiting for Nova to come back for a good reason.
Right.
Yeah.
He was more like a guarding Cybertron kind of stand and watch.
Yeah, from Nova Prime.
Right.
From Nova Prime.
Why? We'll find out later. Not in this issue or these comics, but we will find out later in this continuity. So stay tuned.
What do you guys think about that as a intro for Omega? I thought it was unique, but like every other time we met Omega, he was in Icon or like some city. I
Yeah.
mean, even in the video games, he was like the key, the Omega key.
Yeah. I like how you bring that up since you played those games recently.
That is true.
Oh,
Uh, I think it was a good introduction because I feel, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but in most incarnations of the Omega Sentinels, they're usually like standing watch over Cybertron, or kind of, they're supposed to kind of keep watch, and so he was doing that, but in for a different motive.
Right. And in other continuities or alignments, they are usually like ancient beings or ancient bots that don't interfere with the Cybertronian race. Like I think that's in the new Netflix series.
Yes.
Right.
I feel like the first time we see like the type of guardians, like the Omega, like what Omega Supreme is, right? I think the first time we saw them, that type was when Zeta, I believe, was destroying Nyan,
Yes.
and he used, and I quote, called them the Destructors at the time.
Hmm.
And I think that's like the first time we see those types of bots here in the comic series. But like we're not, and it's, to me it kind of feels weird because like, you know how they said Omega was sitting there in that icy place for millions of years just waiting for Nova to come back, but it feels like his brethren were destroying Nyan.
Right.
Yes.
To me it was like an interesting twist.
Well, should we move to the next point?
Yeah.
Speaking of giant mechs, we get to see a little bit more about Trypticon, more specifically their past, and we get to see it kind of get fused with the Quintesson Pentas that Megatron infused into Trypticon, which I think is kind of interesting. And we get to kind of learn more about the Quintesson's like destructive tendencies,
Yep.
and that being like reflected with Trypticon's destructive tendencies in the past was kind of like interesting, kind of side by
Yeah,
side.
it's like putting a savage beast with another savage beast.
Right, exactly. Like with one that's slightly more intelligent, right?
Yeah.
And you get the combination of two really great evils, and then
Right.
boom, you have the super evil.
Well, talking about Triptychon, that fight was pretty fun. Between him and Metroplex. Uh,
Oh yeah.
yeah, they're talking to each other and kind of saying like ancient. Uh, forgot the name right now, but
Rivalry.
yeah, they have like an ancient rivalry. But he called him a specific name, like Ancient Protector or something like that. So it's like this has been going on for a long time, and seeing Triptychon fall from space in his city alt mode was pretty crazy.
Kind of like the game, right? Then it's,
Yeah.
yep.
I like giant mech fights.
Yeah. I have on my notes literally called the Monster Mash because there's just so much smashing going around, like beasts versus beasts, titans versus titans. You know, it's good stuff. I kind of want to back up to Trypticon
Same here.
before the whole mech fight. Trypticon, like in the beginning, was talking to Megatron, and I think Megatron at the time was asking him what his motives were and why he wants to necessarily follow him. And Trypticon says, and I quote, he says, he hates all who live. And to me, that's interesting. And I'm not going to spoil anything. I'll probably come across this later. You're going to see a really good character arc with Trypticon, and that's all I'm going to say. Because he I'm just gonna leave it at that. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I kind of want to say, hey, foreshadow, there's a character arc, and it was interesting because now that I'm rereading, I'm like, oh hey, interesting.
There's a lot of character arcs with all these characters. They go through lots of changes, and I appreciate that. And like, not all of them do it because, like, in real life, not every person has their own character arc. Sometimes they're exactly the same. But for the ones in this continuity, it's very satisfying.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I want to move forward a little bit before the giant mech fight, before Trypticon, and after Trypticon talking to Megatron. I want to bring out that we get to see the Predacons, and the reason why we get to see the Predacons is because Megatron has assigned Starscream to go out and assemble his army, and we find out that the Predacons are responsible for like just themselves wiping out an entire planet. I think the planet's name is Canis Tor.
Extinctions.
Yeah, to the point of extinction. And I thought that was kind of, I don't know, it's like one of those like heist movies where it was just scene after scene of Starscream seeing different groups like the Combaticons, the Predacons, the Junkions. It was just like, I'm in.
I,
You know?
I feel like their specialty would only be like primal planets, right?
Well,
And-
for the Predacons, right?
Yeah, for the Predacons, because I feel like planets of civilization wouldn't be necessarily their specialty.
Yeah,
But,
I
like,
can see that.
Yeah, I feel like that's what their specialty was, is just like wiping out.
Yeah.
I mean, they love it. They do it for the hunt. That's literally what they call it. They do it for the hunt. And it was so bad that, during the scene, they started hunting each other because there was nothing else to hunt and they were stuck on a planet.
Yeah.
The Decepticon way.
Yeah, that was. And I
Survival
like
of the fittest.
I like the part where they recruit the Stunticons, and they're
Yeah.
they're talking about like let's see if Swindle's information is correct, and then they go to the door and it doesn't open, and then suddenly it opens and Starscream's already inside, and it's like, oh, this is all part of our plan. We brought you here on purpose, and I'm like, oh, okay, poor Swindle. He just gets the short end of the stick every time.
Swindled got swindled.
Definitely the cockroach of the series here.
We won't say why. Spoilers. Well, do we want to move on to the next topic, or what else do you guys want to say? Should we get to the fight?
Yeah.
Is the fight before or after the Junkin visit?
The fight at the Junkians visit after Metroplex and Trypticon fight.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, well, let's just dive in. Do we have more to talk about the Metroplex Trypticon fight?
They fight.
They fight. That's pretty much it. Yeah, they just. The only thing that's very cool we can't really say about it because it'll be kind of a spoiler. So we'll keep it there.
Yeah, go read the comic. Yeah, Junkian ship. Take it away.
So in the very first second issue, Monstrosity, they throw Megatron into Junkion, and the entire point of Megatron being on Junkion was because it's literally a wasteland, and there's nothing to salvage there, and he was just going to go there to rot. And the entire time there is like they were trying to devise a way to escape the planet, in which instead of building a spaceship or anything, they had a spaceship come to them with the what's the name of the
Zircon.
yeah, exactly. And he just hijacked, essentially became leader of the Decepticon and went on their ship and out. Well, they come back to Junkin and they recruit the Junkins, and they're like, yeah, just build your spaceship and come join us in a fight. And so the entire time I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, they had a spaceship there the entire time, so they were choosing to live on Junkin. Why?
Why not?
Why? This is a horrible place. I mean, I can understand the Sharkticons being there, but like, why? Why would you stay there? Like, no, yeah, just build your ship and fly on out. Wait a minute. You could have left. Yeah, no, I'm just here in the paradise of scorch and pain. Like, why?
I thought they had like they couldn't fly out. So when Megatron came to recruit them, then the Decepticons kind of fixed it for them, and that's why they just flew out.
No, I'm not gonna say
That sounds right to me.
That's how I interpreted it, because as like there was no reason, if you have a spaceship, why stay there? Like like Computron
Why?
says, like there's no point.
Well, I'm pretty sure in the series he tells them to fix it themselves. Like, it was just like really weird.
Well, if that's the case, we'll throw it on the YouTube splash screen.
Yeah, you'll see the.
We'll have a bunch of arrows pointing at it and be like, look here.
What gives?
Okay.
God.
I like how the Junkion ship is used as a weapon. I
You
won't say
think this has
how.
guns? You
Yeah,
think this thing has guns or lasers or a special weapon?
well,
Nah.
I won't say what it's used for, but it's very clever and I like it.
Let's just say it's a very sharp
It
ship.
really sticks into you.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts there, Kilo?
I like it. Just can't say much about it.
Okay.
It's a good way to use it. Just I don't want to spoil anything.
You want to lead us into the next battle?
Yeah, one of my favorite parts. This is a little bit ahead of the battle, but we see Hot Rod. He's part of this big battle, and he comes face to face with his friend called Slinger, and he's joined the Decepticon cause. And in the midst of the fight, Slinger tells him that he doesn't know who's right anymore, either Decepticon or Autobot, because of all this fighting. And suddenly the Predacons just come from behind and just rip Slinger apart, and they're like, "Then you're wrong
Traitor.
because the Decepticons are the ones that are gonna win this." And I'm like, "Oh my god, that was that was crazy."
And then suddenly out of nowhere, the Dinobots.
Dinobots, yeah. We get some beast on
That's why,
beast fighting.
like I said, like I left the Monster Mash note there because it's like, yeah, it becomes Beast versus Beast this time.
I mean, it makes sense, right? The Dinobots, like, main competitors are the Predacons, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we could say the Predacons would be kind of like the demolition crew from the Decepticons in a way. Their tactics require more of a kind of break everything in in their way than being really tactical. But
I mean, that's very Dinobot mindset, right? That's like
yeah,
the opposite.
yeah, they do break stuff. But I feel like they're a little bit more uh teamwork oriented, other than the compared to the Predacons, because Predacons kind of like they just want to hunt for their personal gain, and
Hunt.
we see this in their at the beginning when they're hunting each other, when they're being recruited. So like for them is all about the hunt. If they have to hunt one of their own, they'll do it. While the while the Dinobots have kind of like a code, and they're like, we help each other, we stand together, we're a team, kind of thing.
Oh, it is.
Backing up a few steps, I wanted to talk about when we first are introduced to the Sharkticons on Cybertron. So first thing that happens, and I'm not going to say how, there was acid rain being poured in from the atmosphere, and it created a flood. And in that flood, the Sharkticons came and were on Cybertron, and they were swimming around, and they just were almost pretty much laying waste to Optimus's army that he was having, or his front line, should I say. And so what made me kind of confused was is they were kind of kicking the front line's butt, and then out of nowhere, Optimus says, "Suppressive fire." And, all of a sudden the Sharkticons are like getting annihilated, and some of Megatron's front lines are getting annihilated. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, why didn't you do that in the first place? You literally, they were swimming towards you. You could have just said suppressive fire right then and there before they got to your front line. But what made me like scratch my head was Megatron's like, oh, that was a very clever move, Optimus. I'm like, no, it's not. Any person with common sense would have said, hey, you have some sharks swimming on you. You might want to lay down some suppressive fire before they reach you.
Dramatic effect.
But no, it's
Yeah.
not dramatic at all, I guess. It's just like, no, we need to lose some of our front line before we lay suppressive fire down. Like, okay, sure.
Well, a way we could interpret this, if you want to kind of stretch it, is they were focused on the Junkion, right? The
Right.
Wreckers group first, and so the rain started happening, and so they're like focusing on the Junkions, and then they stopped. They did whatever they did to them, or like their gaze turned into another direction, and then they notice the Sharkticons coming, and they might have been too close for kind of like start shooting or cut them off guard in a way. That could be one of the reasons why it took them or took
Yeah,
him
but so
kind of like
why is it clever then that he says suppressive fire after the Sharkticons get to him and Wrecker's group's kind of already battling him?
Hmm.
Right, to me, it's not clever at all. It's like, wow, you.
Maybe it was condescension.
Could be. I mean, that's what Megatron is, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I could have read that
Well,
with the wrong tone in my head.
little sarcasm.
Yeah.
Maybe they're trying to get some information of what they were or what they could do. I don't know.
If something's coming at me and it has a fin, it's not coming in within 2 feet of me. I'm not gonna say, "Hey, what is that?" No, it's throw rocks, kick at it, scream. I don't know.
Ron,
Retreat. I don't know.
Ron, as you figured out what is my battle plan when I play video games? Shoot! No, I'm gonna hide.
Thought you're gonna be a pacifist.
All right. Kilobyte. Is there anything else you want to talk about here? We're right about at the end of the comic.
I do like close to the end of the comic. There's this big confrontation, like always, between Optimus and Megatron, and I like that they finally got their classic G1 weapons. So Optimus gets his axe, and then Megatron gets
Yes.
his ball and chain, and I'm like, oh yes, it's getting good now.
Yes.
So that's
I really like the art in that scene. It's just so beautiful.
yeah. Oh no, we're definitely gonna put a snippet of that on the YouTube because that's such a good that's just such a good panel.
Maybe we'll get fancy and do that little anime. What? I don't know. See what happens.
Yeah, give it some cool effects, but no, that scene with their classic weapons gave me goosebumps.
It's good stuff. And then Megatron's killed and end. Nothing else, right? End of the continuity. No more
Yeah.
comics
That's
after this.
Thanks for coming into my podcast. We're gonna move on to.
And now we're gonna go to
Alright.
the 2019 IDW universe.
That was a joke, audience. There is
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
There's a lot more. Any other ending thoughts?
I liked seeing the subtle glimpses of Springer,
Oh yeah,
my favorite wrecker.
he's got better things to
He was
do
kicking
tonight
some
than
booty.
die.
Or he was kicking some tailpipe.
True.
I like seeing the bot who lets us podcast from his bar every day. We get to see Swerve in a panel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Pretty cool.
Thanks, Swerve.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we get this table next time? This very table here.
Yeah.
Um,
We also see another bot that Computron and Onyx call the useless one. I still haven't gotten that information on why, so all the readers out there will find that out with me. But
oh hail the useless one.
they all hail the useless one.
You know what's funny?
What?
I don't see Waspinator here tonight. You think he's okay?
Oh, I don't know. Last time you guys were pretty mean.
Okay, maybe we'll make up
Probably
for it
over
next
there
time.
sitting in the back, telling his stories.
Maybe he had a long day at work, so he's gonna come in a little bit later.
I hope he's okay. I know. Once he gets talking, he doesn't stop. That's all I was trying to get to last time.
Oh. Well, I'm new here, so I'm trying to learn all
His
the bots.
ability to talk in third person is phenomenal.
I've heard that.
Right on. Well, what's our next read after this one?
Our next read is going to be Rom versus the Transformers.
Fantastic. So, listeners, stay tuned for June 14th for that release.
That's going to be a good
It's gonna be a good one.
issue. Yeah.
I hear we might have a guest during that episode.
Ooh, who could it be?
Ooh.
Who could it be? Indeed, we'll post it on our social media sites when it's official or closer to that day. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Dun.
Speaking of socials, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Swerves Bar. We also have a keychain giveaway, which will end on June 19th. So if you haven't had a chance to enter, now's the time. We also have a website. It's at swervesbarpodcast, all one word, .com. And trying to think what else, guys.
In the in between, I got a couple of new figures I got some headmasters from the G1 reissue that
Ooh.
they're exclusive to Walmart. So I went this weekend and I saw them and I'm like, I don't have these. I need to get them. So I got a couple of those. I got some Chrome Dome, some Hard Case, some Mine Wipe, and then Skull Crusher.
Speaking of
Fancy.
toys,
Yeah, big kid stuff.
Speaking of toys,
speaking of
Computron.
toys, these two guys decided. So a few days ago was my birthday, and these two great guys that I'm doing the podcast with decided to make me a 3D printed shattered glass Soundwave and Rumble, and I believe that's I
Frenzy.
forgot the other one. What?
Frenzy.
Thing
Frenzy.
too.
I know I'm trying to say Frenzy, but yeah, they made me a Shattered Glass, Soundwave, Rumble, and Frenzy, and you know I really appreciate it, guys, and you guys did an amazing job with that, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
If you want to see those, if you want to see the pictures of those figures, you can find that on our Instagram or Twitter, and our Facebook.
Right on.
Yep.
Well, shall we end it here, guys?
We shall.
Sure.
Who wants to lead it this time?
Till all are one.
Till all are one.
Till all are one.